Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink, I had both in a couple cartridges and in sample form. Diamine's Monaco Red. Yeah. The tests were done in actually a couple pens. One of them was this Faber-Castell Loom in medium, if my camera would focus. And actually most of the tests also included this Hero 616 with an they all come with the same nib, but quality control's a little shaky, so this one's really an extra fine. And then at the beginning I tried using this Knox Aristotle with a fine nib, but the flow on this was a little wonky. It needed some adjustment, and so eventually, after the first two tests, I decided to retire it, find a more stable pen. Check out the chromatography. Now here's the chromatography as you're supposed to do it, where you put the ink and then instantly dunk it in the water. And as you can see, not a lot of water resistance. There's a sort of faint shadow down here where it used to be, and then it goes up. You can see there's some very bright reds, almost some maroons, and almost bordering on like a brown, and then there's this weird almost purple up at the top. And then this one, lately I've been doing this, is not how you're supposed to do it, but I let it dry, and you can definitely see there's this faint sort of grayish purple thing down here. And here you see more pink, then it goes up into a red, and then border almost a brown maroon. So I compare it to some other inks. This is Monaco Red down here. And then here's Ackermann's number 18 Garuda. I just butchered that, I apologize. Diatramentis' Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle. Noodler's Black Swan and English Roses. Faber-Castell Garnet. Dromgoole's Noodler's Alamo Twilight. Diatramentis Scented Cola. Noodler's Red Black. And Diamine Rustic Brown. So. Alright, top down in density, Clairefontaine 90 grams per square meter. Again, here I used the fine Aristotle and the Faber-Castell Loom, but if you look at the writing, I was kind of having trouble getting it started. And if you'll see, this is also the fine. Again, having trouble getting it started, but on downstrokes, it would get very wet. So it would give this very kind of beautiful, distinct shading, but at the same time, like here on the downstrokes, it was severely wet, so it gave kind of wonky dry times, because most Faber-Castell pens, the majority, tend to run pretty wet. So yeah, the fact that they had the same dry times, and this is a fine and that's a medium, yeah. I said the flow was 5 out of 10, and that sort of medium flow wasn't really working for the Aristotle. But it's pretty well behaved. There's no bleed, there's no feather, there's no spread, there's fantastic shading, there's no sheen, and there's no echo. I mean, even when you press it to the back, you can barely see that. It's just sort of, yeah. And I actually was really enjoying the color. It kind of looks like those terracotta roof tiles and patio tiles that you see in Italy and Spain. It's sort of like this reddish-brown or this brownish-red. So, yeah. As the chromatography would have suggested, it's kind of messy. A lot of it washes away. You have this little tiny bit at the center, so if you absolutely had to recover something, you probably could. Next is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter, where I was still using the Aristotle, but as you can see, I was still having some flow issues. And as you can definitely see here, since the flow was kind of wonky and all the downstrokes were really wet, I was getting some very beautiful shading, but it wasn't fair to the test, so that was why I eventually, after this test, I decided, no, I needed something more reliable. But it is very beautiful shading. Again, it is this sort of it's red, but it really does have elements of brown in it. But yeah, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no sheen. I said not much echo potential. That was from the fine Aristotle, so when I was scrubbing, it caught the paper and it started to scratch through it a little bit. But yeah, there's not much echo potential. If you're very sensitive, I mean, this is a white background, so if you're very sensitive, keep an eye out for that. Again, water test kind of as we should have expected. Most of it washed away. It's a bit messy, but again, if you absolutely had to recover it, you probably could. Next is Tomoe River Paper, where I finally switched over to the Hero 616. And here you definitely get some beautiful shading. You definitely see that sort of like semi-red, semi-brown. You see this halo effect that Tomoe River tends to have, like especially slow-drying inks. It causes the ink to pool, and it kind of allows it to get that nice distinct halo. But yeah, the Faber-Castell in medium was 15 seconds. The Hero in extra fine was 9 seconds. Really beautifully writing. No bleed, no feather, no spread, no sheen even on here. You just get sort of like a dark halo. And Tomoe River really loves to let ink just slide away when you add more water. You still have a little bit left, so if you really had to recover it, you could. However, you know, I like didn't aggressively mop this up. I just sort of like dabbed it because I didn't want it to get under the paper. And yeah, anyways, so you might be expecting something a little more like that. So next up is the world's worst copier paper, where I only use the Hero 616, except to write the name, but 3 seconds to dry. There's really no shading remaining, or, sorry, just knocked the camera, or essentially really not much. I said it almost starts to look like Noodler's Antietam here, but Noodler's Antietam is a bit lighter, so yeah, there's noticeable spread. Like, so if we compare this line right at the edge with this line, you can see that it's gotten much broader because of the way the paper absorbs it. There's some very noticeable feathering, but yeah, and there's a little bit of bleed, but not obscene amounts, you know, but still in an extra fine nib I would expect better. But because this paper's so absorbent, it really sort of let the ink sink in and it was harder to wash out. It did feather and it did explode a bit, but more of it is there. So next is Mead Notebook Paper, where again I only used the extra fine, except to write the name. It took 2.5 seconds to dry. Almost no bleed. I mean, most of that is extreme echo. Okay, that was written in the wet Faber-Castell. But yeah, so, I mean, it didn't actually get to the other side. There's sort of like this vague impression that there's something there, but yeah, really not bad. There is some sort of like woolly, almost feathering stuff going on, but it's not like in your face the way it, you know, really was on here. So yeah, could have been a heck of a lot worse. Again, because the paper's so absorbent, the ink really sunk in and was sort of harder to wash out when we added the water. A little bit of feathering, but really not too bad. Next is Moleskine Notebook Paper, and this is that freakishly well-behaved Moleskine Notebook Paper, the stuff that's like probably at least 8 years old. So many grains of salt with this. But yeah, on this freakishly well-behaved paper, you can see that you get this halo effect, you get lots of shading, but it also took 6 seconds to dry in an extra fine. So yeah, if only all Moleskine paper behaved like this, that would be fantastic. Apparently, Moleskine, like wine, has to be aged. But anyways, yeah, kind of like with the premium papers, most of it washed away. There's a little bit at the center, a bit of a mess, but yeah, if you had to recover it, you could. So there you go. There's Diamine's Monaco Red. It's a interesting red. It's, you know, it really does sort of like bridge the gap between red and brown. I honestly, like, sometimes when I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's a red brown. I'm like, no, it's a brown red. But yeah, very steady flow. So maybe put it, if you're going to use absorbent paper, put it in a wet pen. You know, that's pretty much the only advisory thing I would recommend. For your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.